it's hard for any political actor to watch any political theater from the sidelines. So of course it will be. But I hope to play an important role as a member of parliament in it. I'm a fiscal hawk, a fiscal conservative. That's what has defined my political career. I'll be proposing different ideas and seeking different kinds of policy commitments from the leadership contenders. I want our party to continue to be the party of free enterprise and limited government, balanced budgets, and boundless opportunity. So I'll be working to try and get leadership contenders to commit to that vision.
And do you think you'll have success? Because we did see in the last election that really every single party was running a deficit platform. There was nobody's, and suddenly restraint and balance are seen as pulling back, which is a funny way to think about just living within your means.
Yeah, it is an interesting irony, but what we're seeing now is that despite the large and growing deficits, the economy is really not growing that much. So if the justification for big deficits is high growth, well, we're not getting our money's worth. The economy is sort of sputtering along. It barely grew last quarter, probably shrunk in per capita terms. This year it's supposed to grow at 1.6%, and that's with a $27 billion deficit. So where's the growth we're supposed to be getting for our money? I think what we need to do as conservatives is provide another pro-growth stimulative approach, which is to unleash the power of free enterprise. And if we can do that, I think Canadians will rally around it.
Your part, you're the opposition critic for finance.
Yes.
What will your party support in a budget, and what won't it support? Where will you draw lines about what you want to see and what you don't want to see?
We're looking for three basic things. One, we want a credible path to phase out the deficit. Two, we want immediate and real tax relief for entrepreneurs and workers. And three, we want to see the government unleash the power of free enterprise, but remove regulatory obstacles to major wealth-creating projects that can lift people out of poverty and fund our programs into the future. Those are three things that we think Canadians want and that we expect to see in the budget.
So are there other things on a short list of things the Conservatives will not support when we think about a minority government and what could bring it down? What's on the list?
Well, I don't want to speculate about elections, although I know that will be the endless speculation throughout a minority parliament. I would just say that those three priorities I laid out are the priorities of Conservatives, and we're hoping the government catches on to them very quickly. I think they'll be in a lot of political trouble if they don't, because the consequences for the economy will lead to political consequences for the governing party. So I encourage them to listen to us, not for our sake, but for their own.
Peter MacKay says definitively no carbon tax under MacKay leadership. We've heard from other leadership contenders that carbon tax would be off the table. Is that really the right approach for you that believe in the free market to achieve our climate goals? Do we not need a price on carbon?
Well, I think there are other ways to do it. For example, Alberta has brought in the TIER system, which is designed to require large industrial corporations who fail to reduce their emissions to invest in a technology fund that will transform their industry rather than fill government coffers. I also think we need to export on large scale our natural gas to displace foreign coal-fired emissions in places like China. That's the largest source of global emissions. And if our goal, we know the atmosphere is global in nature, if our goal is to actually reduce global emissions, it should be by exporting clean, green Canadian alternatives like natural gas, hydro, and nuclear. That could do far more than taxing our industry and our workers into submission.
We have some big decisions on the energy file, and
Right.
the balance we always talk about these days is between our natural resources and the income it generates, frankly,
Right.
and climate goals and sustainability. Right on the government's agenda is a decision on Teck's Frontier mine.
Yeah.
What would your message be to the Liberal government about that decision?
Approve it. I mean, at the end of the day, if they don't approve this project, then they are effectively saying the oil sands have no future. They will effectively be leaving trillions of dollars buried beneath the ground in a world where the world is going to continue to consume a million barrels of oil per day, whether or not we shut down the oil sands. So where do we want it to come from? Venezuela, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, or do we want it to come from Canada, where we have among the most advanced environmental regulations and technology in the world with which to do it? Canada's energy sector is the solution, not the problem to our environmental problems.
We also just got over the last hurdle, or getting over the last hurdle on new NAFTA.
Yeah.
Trade issues remain, though, a pretty serious one. What would you do differently? What would you have the government do differently on the global stage when it comes to trade? We're fighting with China. The U.S. at every turn is still kind of an irritant, not a free trader where we're concerned. What has to change?
focus on core interests. The failure of the USMCA for Canada is that we didn't focus on our core interests, and therefore we got a bad deal effectively for Canada. We didn't solve Buy America, we didn't solve softwood lumber, and we didn't get any new market access that we did not already have. And the government was focused on a bunch of public relations grandstanding rather than on those core interests. And as a result, Conservatives are we're stuck supporting the deal because you only get once a generation to negotiate a trade agreement with the most lucrative economy in the world. But we're going to, when we take government, we're going to have to one by one remove those irritants, just as Harper did. Harper got us an exemption to Buy America. He got us a softwood deal. The future Conservative government will have to, one by one, achieve the same kind of diplomatic breakthroughs because you simply can't open the trade agreement for yet another renegotiation.
Parliament is back to work. Obviously, the coming budget will be a focus. What do you think should be the agenda for this Parliament?
Well, we have to unleash our economy. Right now, it's incredible when you think about it. My maternal grandfather came from Ireland for better opportunity in Canada. No one would do that today. Our current GDP per capita in Ireland is 70% higher, 70% higher than in Canada. It's unbelievable. You think of the waves of Irish immigrants who came here to build this country for opportunity, and now we're poorer than Ireland. The same is true with Singapore and Hong Kong, New Zealand, Switzerland, etc. We're falling behind. We need to unleash the unmatched power of the free enterprise system to generate the opportunity of the future. And time is running out because we're falling behind.